And see what we can do about getting into the framework of the governor's budget address compared to waiting till after the fact. Just a few things that we have talked about already this year that are priorities for us is obviously the first and foremost is to hold the majority party accountable to spending. No new taxes. We certainly do not, and the voters have spoke, they do not want a graduated income tax, so that will be a number one priority. Tackling the pension debt, if there is indeed, one, pay the bill, and two, if there is any excess dollars for us to be putting those excess dollars to pay down pension debt rather than pork projects is certainly a priority. Addressing state agency mismanagement and dysfunction for us to improve efficiencies would overall better our citizens as well as lower dollars. And getting our prior obligations met from the 2019 Capitol bill. House Republicans had $41.8 million of projects still not being released, and I would ultimately say for political reasons. And actually, some of those projects are now in Democrat districts, so it is for the betterment of the citizens around the state that we meet that obligation. I hate to say it and keep beating the drum, but how about some ethics reform, real ethics reform that is actually going to make a difference, and so the folks of Illinois can support and believe and trust in government. Funding education to continue to pay the bill for the evidence-based funding model is a priority for everybody in the House. And prioritizing services for Illinois citizens. All of these are priorities that will help with our fiscal sanity here in the state, and we must continue to try, as a House Republican caucus, to help deliver relief. We will not stand for tax increases, and like I said, we must deliver efficient state services. These are common sense problems. We have common sense solutions, and there's no reason that any of these shouldn't be bipartisan. You often hear our colleagues on the other side of the aisle state that the budget is a moral document. We couldn't agree more. The problem with this moral document is that it is used as a political football, and that has also got to stop. You can't have it both ways. We need to fulfill the promises of the past, and again, we say it again this year as we did last year. House Republicans are not the party of no. We want to be the party to offer solutions. We are offering solutions in every avenue that we can, in every topic that we can, and that we ask to be a part of that process. It takes two to negotiate. So obviously that also takes measures of good faith. We cannot sit down together and have these negotiations if we're not being honest and transparent with one another. So that's also a huge priority for us to continue our side of good faith and forward transparency. Now I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Leader Noreen Hammond.
Thank you, Leader McCombie, and thank you all for making the effort to be here with us this morning. Greatly appreciated, and we are truly out of the blue, and I'm loving every minute of it. I am Noreen Hammond. I'm Deputy Leader to Leader McCombie and also the Chief Budgeteer for the House Republican Caucus. Last week I was in Bloomington, and I joined many of my colleagues in a bipartisan effort to bring forward some legislation that would vastly change the estate tax here in Illinois, particularly for agriculture and protecting our family farms. I think that effort certainly underscores how things can actually come together in a bipartisan way when we are working on shared priorities, and I believe that was what we actually did accomplish last week. Is that all said and done? Absolutely not. The hard work begins to get that effort across the line, but knowing that we have bipartisan support for that certainly makes that much easier. And I'm hopeful that that is a show of sincerity as we go forward on this year's budget, that we can work together, certainly on priorities, but more importantly, to craft a budget that actually benefits all of the residents of the state of Illinois and works to improve our economy, which we desperately need to do. So in a couple of weeks, we will hear from the governor as he presents his state of the state budget. And I think we all look forward to that. And that's when the real work begins. That's when we as the appropriation folks will begin to work with the governor's budget as the framework and bringing in experts from COGFA and the Governor's Office of Management and Budget to see what are the revenues, what are the demands, the spending demands. You know, we often talk about the above the line and the below the line, and I think that is very important to do. We have priorities that we absolutely have to maintain, as Leader McCombie said, with the evidence-based funding formula, paying our pension debt in its entirety. So in its full payment, I would say entirety would be.
It'd be great.
That would be an interesting.
We don't have a solution for that.
Yeah, we don't. But we expect that with what we're seeing, at least early on from GOMB, that we could be expecting about an $890 million deficit projection. So all of that is going to have to be taken into account. Over the past years, we have done some major expansions, and human services, for example, has grown by about $3.6 billion, and healthcare and Medicaid has grown by about 1.5. And I am not bringing these figures out to say that those expansions were bad or were not needed, but the challenge is, how do we continue to balance those expansions on top of additionally rising costs and lowering revenue? So it is a critical balance that I believe we as a caucus have many experts within that field that we can lend suggestions, and certainly we have experts on both sides of the aisle and in both chambers. So we just want to be certain that we can maintain a lot of the services that we have promised, and yet not continue to make promises to people and give them hope on issues and then not put the money there because we just don't have it. So I think that is one of the most unfair things that we can do, certainly to our constituents and to the residents across the state of Illinois. And there are truly there is not enough money to pay for those promises. So there's not a magic wand that's going to bring that money in to our budget, but the bottom line is we have to stop passing flawed budgets. Last year we did not have one single Republican that voted for the FY24 budget, and that was because we actually dove deep into the numbers. We knew that we could not sustain everything that was in that budget. You cannot continue to do that. So the governor has identified $1 billion in new requests right now. We have actually reached out. We have already met with the administration to talk about what are the expectations for the upcoming year, to offer our support to help in any of the discussions, and that was a great discussion and very well received. So the bottom line is the state has numerous budget pressures, and we have to act in a responsible way to address those, and I think that we all, regardless of party, regardless of chamber, we have shared priorities, and those should be the ones that we are actually able to focus on. So just know that we are here and willing to do the work, and I'm happy to assist in any way that we possibly can. Thank you all, and I'm going to turn it over to Representative Amy Ellick.
Thank you so much, Leader Hammond and Leader McCombie. Good morning. I'm State Representative Amy Ellick from the 111th District, and I serve as the Deputy Budgeteer for the House Republican Caucus, and I am an Assistant Republican Leader. As we get closer to the governor's budget address in a couple weeks, I definitely remain optimistic that we'll be invited to be part of the solution to discuss some of our shared priorities for the fiscal year 25 state budget. We, as House Republicans, obviously would like to see a balanced budget without spending more than what is in the bank account, hence a budget that is based on valid revenue estimates. We would also like to see a budget that provides tax relief. One of these priorities important to our caucus and myself is to restore the inflationary adjustment to the standard exemption for Illinois taxpayers. So this week I have filed House Bill 4998, which provides tax relief to every taxpayer in the state by removing the pause in the inflationary component of the standard exemption, which, if you recall, that was included in the revenue omnibus last year. That revenue omnibus bill last year, which was Senate Bill 1963, eliminated the inflationary component of the standard tax exemption. So that meant that the standard exemption was $200 lower than what it would have been. Democrats snuck this through in that 558-page amendment without ever having discussed this provision. So our legislative proposal seeks to change this law and provide taxpayers some relief. I hope that this will be considered and approved this year to help provide taxpayers some relief on their tax bills next year, and we are willing and able to assist with getting this through in any way that we can. So I'll now turn it back to Leader McCombie.
Well, thank you again, everybody, for coming.